gotta do my
Munson and the geezers. Look, Munson and the geezers. Reporting from the scene. Munson and the geezer. News in every ride.
I love that theme tune. Tony, such a good job.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Expat Euro News. It's me and your fellow host, Carl Munson, with you. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to try.
But I'm doing that thing that you did last week. So carry on as though.
I'm not looking at my other screen because I can't remember what I was supposed to be talking about.
I am. I can't hold this position though.
I tried to do that kind of like pro. You know, it's good night from him, and it's good night from. What am I talking about?
Well, the sweeping look in. You know, the music.
Sweeping look in. I know.
Hi. Good evening. Yeah. Okay,
yes.
No, I see what you did.
Yes.
I see what you needed.
I just noticed in our intro it says mixed race British. You're a mixed race Brit.
I'm a mixed race Brit. I am. Yes.
What are the races that are in the mix?
My father is of Irish extraction. So that's the sort of British. No, not the British. That's the European. That's the European bit. I never thought about that. Because he was an Englishman essentially, but of Irish extraction. And my mother's from the Far East.
Okay.
Yes.
I often kind of forget because I was adopted. That my father is actually Welsh.
Is that right?
So I'm half Welsh. I don't know if that counts as
no. So race. What does I mean? It was very interesting, given that they're Welsh, that they called you the Portugueser. Then is that a Welsh thing as well?
I don't know. I don't understand anything.
Okay, you're going to help me understand something tonight. This episode is called the End of Empire Special.
Right,
and I'll tell you what I'm thinking, and because I know you've got something to add to this of some import, I believe.
Yeah,
and
very important.
Okay, thank you. I may stand when you do that bit. Then, so it's what it says on the show slide is "Ew, End of Empire Special," and it's like EU. I'm not a big fan of the EU, and that's to me that's different to Brexit or not Brexit.
Bunch of right wingers.
Yeah, it's a club, isn't it? And
bunch of right wingers.
You ain't in it, Tony. Bunch of bloody dictators. Anyway,
not till October next year, anyway.
Yeah, okay. So there is that the European Union, which is an empire of a kind, isn't it? Let's face it. And in Portugal, Estados Unidos is also EU, isn't it? It's what the Portuguese call the Americans. And I think there's something going on with the European and American empires. You know, people are in micro. Not exactly microaggressions, but micro skirmishes. The macro, to me, is that our grand civilization, Western civilization, is in its kind of end phase, and that's not all bad, by the way. I don't mean that to be negative or gloomy. I just think it's quite a good idea for an empire, which, if it doesn't realize through fighting itself and undoing itself, it can reinvent itself. We miss that opportunity. And that's what I'd really like to see. I'd like to see Europe, especially because I don't have a great deal of influence on the United States. I'd like to see Europe reinvent itself for the future rather than be locked in a typical end of empire struggle where it's headbutting itself.
Right. You don't have any influence on the US? What about all those posts that you make on Facebook? Surely
they prove that I have no influence.
surely that must be they must be doing something, Carl.
No.
Otherwise, why are we doing it? Why are we doing it?
It's just standing, it's peeing in the wind, basically, of social media.
Peeing in the wind.
It's letting off steam. To extend that analogy of peeing in the wind, I'm letting off steam.
Don't pee in the wind tonight, Carl. That's for sure.
No, so true.
100 kilometer an hour winds on our way in from Kirk.
Yes,
Hurricane Kirk. Yeah,
true. We're getting the arse end of things, don't we? Thankfully,
yeah.
Thankfully.
It's coming in at warp speed, Captain.
Right. Okay. What's your preparation?
Oh my God, that was my pause. You didn't get that one?
No.
I got that from a subscriber.
Okay,
Kirk.
do that again then. Do
Kirk.
it. Oh, yes. Now I see. Oh, my goodness. I'd already
We
moved
need a
on.
signal. We need a signal.
We do need
Don't we?
something, don't we?
Like
yeah, okay.
live long and prosper or something. I don't know.
Oh, you
Star
are
Trek
amazing.
reference.
No. Sorry, I'm getting my.
It's a Star Trek reference.
Okay,
That's the Vulcans. That's the Vulcans. They're a completely different.
What about that one though?
That's the. That's the. I don't know. I don't know where you go. I don't know what that means.
There we go. But I was going to find out more about Empire from you. You made a little bit of a quip, a knowing nod. Okay, Munson, I'll tell you all about it.
Well, we can perhaps if we have a quick, maybe I can just show you what I'm talking about. So if I could share this screen, I always feel slightly nervous when I do this.
What other screens do you have open?
Exactly. So yeah, this is from The Guardian, which I read all the time. But yeah, Starmer defends UK ceding control of Chagos Islands amid Tory criticism. Surprisingly, the Tories are critical of this. But anyway, we've long had a saying, haven't we, that the sun never sets on the British Empire.
Depends which bit.
Well, there up until now, there has always been one small part of the British Empire in the sun. But it seems as though Starmer unilaterally has ceded control of the Chagos Islands, and you can see by the fact that I don't even know how to pronounce it, that I've had no idea
it's
that we
so important to us, isn't it? I mean, this is a problem if you're Shagan, I guess, isn't it?
Well, apparently there were 1,000 people living on the Chagos Islands when they were ceded to us in the Napoleonic Wars. You can see I have done a little bit of research. And it's interesting to see how media is describing it. The sort of more left-leaning media is describing it as returning the islands to the Mauritius. But the reality is that it was never part of the Mauritius, and the 1,000 inhabitants were apparently repatriated to good old Blighty back in the day. For some reason, they've decided to hand the islands to Mauritius, who in a way are sort of a protectorate of China. So this has really raised a few eyebrows. Now, apparently the only thing that was on the Chagos Islands was a joint UK and American military base. And it was
given to China.
Yeah, which has now been given to China. And apparently the most strategic importance of the place is it's one of the few bases in the world where nuclear submarines can refuel. So there we go. And I suppose what my question to
yes,
well, my question to all of our viewers this evening, which at the moment is not applicable.
No, we do have some people watching.
Maybe on your channel.
I'm thinking, we've got colder, darker evenings. That might mean that some people are forced to watch.
Right. But I mean, I guess my question is, like, I suppose, like most people, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I'm not the only one who's never heard of these Chagos Islands. But what do people think about Starmer sort of unilaterally ceding, part of the British Empire, and then not only on top of that, ceding it to China, who may or may not be enemies of Britain?
Well, I think you've
to interpretation.
You've done a classic kind of dog whistle, lightning rod. It's that sort of thing, isn't it? Where
only dogs can hear dog whistles, Carl. That's I can't remember where I heard that, but I think it's a fine quote. Yeah.
All right, but the point.
Let me just bring the man back into.
The point. I've got something to say about him as well. Up there.
He's about to do the. He's about to do the cut to camera, isn't he?
He is, isn't he? And say, I'm so glad you asked me that. Let me be very clear about this. My number one priority is.
Let me be very clear about this. This is the mess that was left to us by the Tories.
There you go. That's what I want to say about him, Tony. Yeah, I read a Twitter post or an X post this evening, and it said the Tories did this. It was about public transport, I think. And my response, which has had 2 likes actually, who else, when just doing their job, keeps referring to the last person in that post in the job? Get on with your job.
You get a bit of a honeymoon period, don't you? But I'm not sure that extends much beyond a couple of months. I don't know.
Well, in a job, I mean, can you imagine? But first few weeks of a job, we say, well, the last guy doing this job did this. I am going to do it this way. But everyone be like, oh, shut up. Just do that. You were hired to do the job. Get on with the job. Or if in a relationship, your ex-boyfriend used to do this. However, I do this. I mean, who's going to put up with that in a domestic working situation?
Well, imagine that you get a new partner and then you start going, oh, look at the bloody mess the
last guy left. Yeah.
We're going to forget you to the gym and get you.
Especially if everything you say starts with that. You know, like, oh, the last guy. Oh, the last guy. Oh, that's it.
Such a mess you are.
Yeah. So get on with it, Keir. Just do the job. And
you've got 4,000 pensioners to kill off this winter.
Crack on.
Crack on.
So this particular issue then, because what comes to mind in these sort of situations is the Falkland Islands and Gibraltar, right?
Well, they're already making noises. We're already hearing noises from the Spanish and the Archibaldis, aren't we, about possible. Well, we want our bit ceded back and all. You know,
why in a strange political situation do words like proroguing and acceding come up? Why are you not just saying give it back or take ownership of?
Well, I think ceding is a legal term, isn't it? I mean, this is I think historically, this is, for example, why different parts of the empire. I mean, they're not all equal, are they? Because my understanding is that back in the day, there were 3 sort of legal ways to for empires to take on ownership of. You know,
take over
other places. So I think, so for Britain, it was conquer. You could conquer somewhere like fair and square. You could have a fight, fair square, take a place.
Yeah.
There was terra nullius.
Yeah,
terra nullius, which meant there is no people living here. Okay. And then there was ceding, which meant the country just gave you some land for some reason, or you might have bought it from them, or won it in a game of poker or something. So that was why they had all the trouble in Australia, because in Australia they claimed Australia by saying it was terra nullius, when of course there were people there, where it was less problematic in, for example, New Zealand or Hong Kong, where the land was ceded to them. Right. Although they ended up ceding back the bit that was ceded to them in Hong Kong.
The great thing about a debate, a current debate about ceding or not ceding, is it shifts the limelight away from how you got the place in the first place, which is great, isn't it? Because I imagine most cedings, annullings, taking overs, colonializations of places are not pleasant processes. So nobody wants to talk about that bit, do they? Because that opens an unholy can of worms. Because none of it, it's all nonsense, really, isn't it? And so much of it is based on violence that this is never going to be a good subject to talk about or end in an especially upbeat or positive way. And I would like to know, and what I haven't heard, and this is typical of the news agenda, I've not heard the government's rationale. I mean, to be fair, I haven't looked, but I just live in the noise of, oh, look what he's done now. He's given up the islands. Maggie Thatcher would never have done that sort of stuff. What is there that wouldn't that be the intelligent thing to do, to find out what their motivation was? And have you done that?
Well, the thing about it was, let me just go to Ground News where I was looking on it, and what's it called? Changes. What the problem I found over on Ground News anyway? I'm probably not going to be able to find it right now, but it got really ridiculous trying to get to the bottom of it, because every newspaper had a different angle on it.
Exactly.
So getting to the truth of the thing was, so some newspapers were even saying, oh, he hasn't given it away yet. And some were saying, like, for example, I saw conflicting stories like, oh, he's given it away, but we've kept the base. And then another one said he's given away the base, but he's kept the island. And
we were talking about this last week.
I just got bored of it. I thought, well, I could waste an hour here reading, and I'm not going to get to the bottom of it.
No. Well, so basically, we can just make of it what we will, and co-opt it as a way of expressing our political feelings.
So I think just all I was sort of interested in was, well, I could see here another story. Joe Biden pushed UK to surrender Chagos Islands. UK hands sovereignty of Chagos Islands to Mauritius in a deal to secure the US base. Now, why would we have to hand back sovereign? Why would we have to hand sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius to secure a US base there if it was our place? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense.
No. Well, we
hang on. There's a new one. Lemmy defends Chagos Islands.
Okay, so well, Crypto Strategist is with us. Thank goodness somebody is speaking to us this evening. We've not got Jackie. Normally it's a bit more boisterous in the chat by now. Crypto Strategist, thank you for being here. If somebody could wake Jackie up, that'd be great as well. Giving up the Chagos Islands was an atrocious decision. Why, Crypto Strategist? That will open up the UK to all sorts of baseless claims from other states, which I think you said is happening with Spain and Argentina. David, he's not a fan of David Lammy, is he, as we found out last week? David Lammy, of course, led on this disaster. He's a dual national. Guyana is his other nationality, and I question if his loyalties lie with the UK. Okay,
that could be another question, Crypto Strategist, that I often think about, because in Australia, for example, recently they've made it illegal, I think. Someone correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I'm almost sure they've now made it illegal for MPs to hold dual nationalities. If you want to be an MP, you have to be an Australian. And I think there are other countries that also have this. You can't be a dual national and be an MP.
It makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. Or the other, what you could do is you have to be the same minister in the other country as well. You have to represent twice, so that you're not partial in any way, which would be probably very.
Well, I think the problem with that is I would argue that I want my MPs to be partial.
Yes. Okay. Fair enough.
You know what I mean?
I meant partial in the sense that, if David Lammy, if we came up with this scheme like David Lammy, if he wants to be a dual national, he has to be foreign secretary in both countries.
Right. Okay.
How about that? That's
so like fair. Twinned, like a twin.
That's fair. That's fair and complicated.
Like a twin city or something.
Exactly. And it would mean, of course, to the relief of people like Crypto Strategist, that he'd be out of the country half the time working in Guyana. China does not care about woke PC gestures and will take full advantage to our detriment. So the line of thinking there seems to be that Keir Starmer is like, well, we're going to be open-handed, and we're going to give you back the islands. But
this is the thing. Yeah, you see what happens though. They kind of plant this phrase into your head, and they're not giving it back. Why does the Mauritius get British property when they never had a claim on it?
Yes,
it doesn't make any sense.
Okay, but I think the point Crypto Strategist is making, that Keir Starmer wants to look good to the Chinese authorities, but they don't care about this sort of. We're not colonialists anymore. I don't think China would be too bothered about that, would they, to be fair? From what I know, from what's reported to me.
No one else cares. Middle class white British women care about this. No one else cares. It's absolute nonsense.
Well, if we do have a weekly woke off, there probably was a point in time when you did care. Not that you were a middle class British woman. I don't know. Maybe you were, but not that I'm aware of. Right?
Well, I had to give it up. In the end.
All right, let's go quickly to we've got two features now. We've got the weekly woke off, where we compare woke notes from the past, and this is a great opportunity to do that. And we've got Up There with Sausages, which is Tony's idea from last week.
I couldn't find any gaffes. I mean, I looked and I can't find any. Yeah, you know what's happened?
There might be nothing.
They've silenced Kamala, haven't they? And what's happened to Biden? I don't know. I just can't. And they're the two where you get most of the gaffes, aren't they? Oh
yeah, for sure, definitely.
They're gaff machines.
Up There with Sausages.
What's funny is if you Google gaffes or recent gaffes, you get like lists of just Biden gaff reels.
Get Biden gaff reels. Wow.
Yeah. So he's obviously the grand master of gaff. Some of his gaffs are quite funny. I mean, you shouldn't laugh,
they
really.
are. Are you steering me away from you the weekly woke off here?
No. I mean, we can do that.
Well,
yeah. I mean, where do you want to go with that?
Well, I was triggered or reminded by you saying only middle class white women are bothered about these wokey cokey sort of ideas of equality and non-colonialism.
Yeah.
Now, I put it to you that there was a time in your lefty past, which some part of you is still lefty, but in your more intensely lefty past, when you would have been really bothered about colonialism and would have done all sorts of diverse and multicultural things to prove your credentials. Am I right?
Yeah, I think I'm still like that. I just think I'm out of the club because I have a few divergent views.
I see. Okay, so as much as you would like to give back the Elgin marbles, for example, you're not allowed to because you're also a far-right sympathizer.
Yeah, exactly. I'm out of the club. But I mean, take for example, in Australia, I think some of the things they're doing now in Australia, or when I say now, because you must have this feeling, Carl, as you get older, when you say now, you mean 20 years ago sometimes.
Yes. Yes, I do. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's what it is there's a lot of things. I was thinking about it today because I knew you were going to talk about this evening. And I was thinking, for example, because I've been a teacher for many years. So just for example, in Hong Kong, I quite often came across books that had stereotypes in them, right? So I'm an English teacher. So you would see books and would be talking about jobs. And of course, very typical, you would see the doctor's a man, the nurse is a woman, the teacher's a woman, the mechanic's a man. Now, I would make a point in class. So, especially with like little kids, I would say, can a man be a kindergarten teacher, for example? Can a man be a kindergarten teacher? And they'd go, oh, no. And then I'd just stand silently.
You would
and watch, and then one of them you'd see the penny drop in a couple of them and go, oh, Mr. Tony, oh, yeah, he's definitely a man, or he's a very ugly woman. They never said that. But do you know what I mean? Right. So what I was thinking about today, for example, is I've got a friend who is a woman, and she is a airline pilot. Okay, now
Does she do her own parking? Sorry, as a joke. In case your friend.
It was very difficult for us as a group of friends to take it seriously. Well, I mean, she seriously is an airline pilot.
Yeah, fair enough. And I didn't say that because I don't think women can't be pilots. I just said that because I saw an opportunity.
But the thing is, what I'm talking about is I'm lefty in the sense that I do believe that it's a good thing to actively promote, like to say, look, we need more pilots. What can we do to attract more women? There's not enough women airline pilots. What can we do to attract more women engineers? What can we do to attract more male nurses? But then I draw the line at quotas. I draw the line at quotas, So this is where I say maybe a real full-on wokey might get angry with me because I'm against what they call DEI hires, right? So for example, I've seen in The Guardian, for example, I used to read The Guardian a lot because I worked in social housing, right?
Yeah.
And I quite often would see adverts that said this post has been ring fenced for someone from the black community, or this post has been ring fenced for someone from, and I find that appalling. I personally think that is racism. That's racism. Like in a nutshell, this job is for black people. But what I wouldn't have a problem with is people from ethnic backgrounds are encouraged to apply. I wouldn't have a problem with that. But I think during the recruiting process, whoever's doing the recruiting should be colorblind, even in that situation.
Yes, yeah. Okay. Whilst you've been talking, I have recalled several seriously woke propositions from my past. And I can't, but I mean, I forgot a lot of these, but in my radicalized and previous wokey self, one that came to mind when you were talking about the gender roles. It's not connected to gender roles, but it's connected to asking people difficult questions so that you look good. And that was in the Sheffield Museum. Oh no, before that, my one before that is a race-based one, going back to being partly Far Eastern Chinese. Okay. And because I'm not sure of my mum's exact origins, whether she's Chinese or sort of more Indonesian type Asian. But anyway, she looks Chinese. She looks Far Eastern. She doesn't look English. And when I was radicalized and very wokey, I heard on Capital Radio in London, Pat Sharp, I think. I don't know if you remember him, the DJ Pat Sharp. He said the joke. I was in a Chinese restaurant and the waiter brought me my meal. And after a little while, I said, I sent it back. I said, this chicken's rubbery. And the waiter said, oh, thank you very much. Right. And I was so woke at the time. I wrote a letter to Capital Radio saying, I think this is a terrible terrible racist joke. And I'm very upset about it. I got a reply. And back in the days when people actually, you'd write a letter and then you get a one back. And they said, yes, in retrospect, this is a very poorly chosen joke to make. And we're very sorry if we've hurt your feelings or something like that. Okay. Which I cringe about now. Yeah. And then another one, a letter to Sheffield Museum. And if anyone's listening who was involved in these processes, I apologize now for being so woke and wanky. I sent a letter to the curator of the Sheffield Museum because there was a cabinet, like these diorama things with some kind of old animal in it, probably a stuffed animal. Or maybe it's an elephant because it had glasses and bits made from ivory. And there was a gun next to it. And I said, this sends out a very bad signal that, you know, our relationship to animals and how we shoot and kill them for what we can get from them. And again, I got one of those letters of like, oh God, how do we respond to this twat? Okay, we will thank you for your letter of the 27th of November or whatever. We have noted your comments and we will bear them in mind and take on board the points you've made, which is a beautifully. I don't think you can do that now, can you? I don't think that will be enough for somebody with a complaint of that kind. They'd want more blood than that, wouldn't they?
Yeah. I think you were more woke than me.
Okay, all right. So the woke off has been won by me this week, but you may remember things from the past where whereby I just thought it was a nice little feature, the weekly woke off, and I'll take people on in the chat as well. If necessary.
I mean, the thing I remember speaking about last week that. Why I sort of was speaking about it last week because someone was talking about the Just Stop Oil thing, and what I was interested in is whether like me, because I used to go to these parties in see, the thing is, I don't know if I was more going to the party to like meet girls.
Of course you were.
Yeah, but they had these things called reclaim the streets, right?
I remember. Yes.
And I was well into it. And I at the time I can remember saying, I really don't care if it impoverishes us. We got to stop oil. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I was really like, I really thought that let's just stop oil. Yeah, if the price of petrol doubles, so be it. People are using their cars too much anyway, and I was really into it, and so it just what it was. It just interested me now because I thought, isn't this interesting? I suspect that a lot of the people who are now angry with Just Stop Oil because of their perhaps how they're being presented, like the way they're protesting, for example. And it's kind of the more you think about it, the more complex and weird it becomes because,
like anything, really,
like probably most of us who are interested in, say, the environment and like there's also health things. I mean, funnily enough, I'm going to go on a tangent. I can't help it, but I was doing a video today about how I find time to do 20,000 steps because a lot of people have asked me that question. Oh, where would I get the time? And so I was giving an example of something that I've noticed. For example, in my village, let's say, there's a a woman who comes to have lunch with her parents, and she's quite fat. But she drives from her house, which is also in the same village. And then I also noticed this in the car park at Lidl, which is, you know, you get some things you buy at Lidl, some things you buy at Continent, some things you buy at Pingados, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're all next door to each other, these supermarkets. And so what I used to do was, like a lot of people, I'd drive to Lidl and I'd try and find the parking spot nearest the door. Yeah. And then I'd go in, get my groceries. Then I'd get back in the car, drive out, and then drive into Continent, park as close as I could to the door. So, but what I do now is I park as far away from the door as I can. And then when I've done my shopping, I then walk to Continent. I leave my car in the little car, but then I walk to Continent.
And why is this? Is this a victory for environmentalism?
Well, it can be both things, can't it? But what I think is, because I use it to get my steps in. I use it to get my steps in, right? Yeah. But what I've noticed is that if I time it, it actually doesn't really. The time it takes to get in your car, drive out of little car park, drive onto the road, turn right, go in and find somewhere else to park. It's not. There's not a lot in it time wise, but it gives me an extra, say, 2,000 steps towards my 20,000 or 25,000 steps or whatever it is. So I'm using my body and getting fitter. I'm riffing the time, so I'm not losing any time. Do you see the point?
I'm seeing how you're going to bring this tangent back round to Just Stop Oil.
Well, that's what I'm saying is people are overusing their cars. I don't think we used to use our cars that much.
Okay.
I think a lot of the journeys that we make in cars, we wouldn't have made them, would we? We'd have walked, or we'd have ridden our bikes or something.
Yes, yeah.
And I see people. You must notice this when you go. Do you take the kids to school?
No,
in the car.
They're home educated, so it was a very
right. Well, if you go to schools nowadays, most of the kids are being driven to school.
Yes, that's right. And so that's a good reason to not have schools, then, isn't it? Environmentally.
Well, yeah, there's plenty of reasons not to have public schools, but yeah, that could be one of them. But my point is, I think it's not just the health of the planet, but it's the health of the people. So I was thinking about it, because everyone blames sugar and processed food, and that is definitely a big part of it. Yeah. Lack of exercise is going to be the next one. So I think, when I see the way people are using their car, because I know if you notice it when you go to the supermarket, most people are bunched up near the door, aren't they? Then they're trying to minimize the amount of time.
Yeah, but you can understand that. It's like, well, what's the point of having a car if I'm not going to use it or gain the maximum advantage from having it?
Well, I know, I hear what you say, but there's got to be some time for exercise, doesn't there? And I think that.
Well, it reminds me of that meme, the American gym.
See, maybe I'm more woke on this one than you. Maybe I'm.
I think you are. I think you've won this particular woke off section of the show tonight with this, because what I realised, and it definitely connects with what Martin's saying. Martin, good evening to you, Martin Templeton. It's strange how our views change as we age, and it's true. I don't care anymore with my don't have kids.
That's it. That was the end. Full stop. I don't care anymore.
No. I don't care anymore about using my car. Right. I used to really be bothered. I did think for a long time, when we reached 350 parts per million, when I was an environmentalist in the 90s, and I was all about permaculture, and I got rid of a car.
Yeah. I was into permaculture. You just reminded me. I was into permaculture as well. Yeah.
I still am. I think permaculture is a wonderful idea, but I'm just saying that as part of a broader picture of when I was more of a crusty myself. And I was very big supporter of the transition movement, not the sexual or gender transition movement, the environmental transition movement. Really big fan and part of that 20 years ago. And now I just I don't know if it's because I live in Portugal and that's how the Portuguese do it. I just get in my car willy-nilly now. I do not have this. In fact, a lot of it, I think, is I resent being made to worry about things. Now, that could be a very dangerous precedent to set, couldn't it? Because arguably there are things that one might be concerned about. But I have got a lot more discerning about things that I think people, agendas that are anxiety and worry based. That are there are so many of them. That's how this works now, isn't it? Our culture, and it does connect with the end of our empire. I think this is another symptom of the end or end stage of a particular trajectory of an empire. When everyone gets neurotic and anxious and they're all fighting each other, that's a terrible marker for an empire. That's not an empire at its height, is it? And arguably, the empire at the beginning, when it's just raping and pillaging metaphorically, that's not a great thing either. But there is a sweet spot, and there is something to be noticed and discerned and observed in all of them.
But what I wonder is, so for example, is somehow green issues seem to have become like a left-wing position.
Yes.
You know, where what I would say is, like, for example, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting a clean environment or wanting biodiversity or wanting sustainable farming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it could go too far. It could go too far either way, right? But what I'm saying is, what I notice right now, Carl, is that it seems to be every single issue has to be like a binary. It has to either sit in the left or sit in the right, and then there's no nuance, you know?
Exactly. And the whole idea of doing your best and that being okay has become quite an esoteric position, I think, in life. Let's endeavor in the last part of this show to bring back all the threads that we've cast out. So it's like we've got 27 fishing rods, and we're going to reel them all back in now. And respect the time and effort people have put in to making comments as well. So let me share a few of these with you. Pete is with us. It's not the first time with Chagos where Shager could go to Chagos, couldn't they? No, we can't.
Hey, and just as an aside, apparently some asylum seekers rocked up there on a boat today.
No.
So, really. So this should be very interesting.
That's a joke. Anyway, that's got to be a GB News joke.
Well, it might be.
Right, so it's like, and what the British authorities say, it's like, sorry, you're not our problem anymore. You're China's problem. And they got back in the bloody boat and went off at great speed, presumably. Isn't the first?
Well, if I was in a boat around there, I'd head for the Mauritius, personally. It's lovely.
It's supposed to be, isn't it? It's not the first time with this sort of thing. Thatcher let the Yanks take Grenada. Arguably that's a different destination, though, isn't it? Or a different recipient. We let colonies go every few years. And I thought Starmer maybe was trying to sneak it in under the radar, wasn't he? But he got banged to rights, caught out by people who wanted to take advantage. And that's why he took the Thatcher picture down in Downing Street, because he couldn't bear walking past it and knowing that he'd given away the Chagos Islands without going to war with the Mauritius and China about it in the way that Thatcher would have done. In the UK,
disrespectful to take Thatcher's picture down. I can't believe it.
In the UK, it used to be, and still ought to be, says crypto strategist.
See, that's another thing. That's another thing. How the hell, like, has this become a thing? Because I fucking hate Thatcher. But yeah, you know what I mean? How did that become a thing where we're all supposed to she was all right. She was all right, wasn't she, Thatcher? You know what I mean?
You want to say that again so I can bleep it out this time?
Oh, sorry. I flipping hate Thatcher.
Yeah, okay, great.
You know what I mean? How the hell has that become something that we're supposed to be? Oh, actually, she was all right, wasn't she? You know what I mean?
I don't feel that at all. I don't really. I haven't changed my position, but then I didn't have a very strong position of hatred on her in the first place. Yes. Again, that was probably more when I was going through before I was radicalized. I was quite right wing, as I was brought up in a public school situation. So I just, I just osmotically was a right winger, and it was going to the north of England to the Yorkshire, where the mining strikes were going on, and fire. The first awakening was when I offered to buy a round of drinks in Sheffield with the money I'd made from my British Telecom shares. That was like a fart in a spacesuit. That was a terrible moment, but that was the beginning of things for me.
Round of shandies.
Exactly. Right. Okay. Look, I tried to read a comment and I didn't even get halfway through it without you picking up on it. So can you mute or something like that? Because these are responses to much of what you've been saying, the Portuguese. So we gave Grenada to the Americans. And in the UK, it still ought to be forbidden and used to be forbidden to occupy senior civil service roles. You say it, man. Or foreign office positions, and we gave them Diego Garcia. Do you remember that, Tony? The famous Diego Garcia giveaway of the 1990s.
Is that near Granada?
It sounds like somebody from a Starsky and Hutch episode to me. The Biden gaffe when introducing Modi was really amusing. Yes, it was. Trump, of course, has his own. The internal use of bleach to fight COVID being one of his greatest hits. I don't know, Tony.
I still remember, what's his name? Fauci doing the face palm. When
he did that in the background.
Bleach. Yeah.
I imagine that was the briefing before that was when Fauci said, look, you don't need to know the details. It's like putting bleach inside your body, hydroxychloroquine or something like that. And then Trump just went out and said the first thing that came to his head based on hardly listening during a briefing, I suspect. That's even if he has briefings. I don't know, Tony. Women are grossly overrepresented in the field of prostitution. That sounds like a movie, doesn't it? Or a book, at least. Do you think we should strive for equilibrium there? Do you, Tony?
I don't know. I feel like this is a false equivalence somehow, but I'm not. I don't want to think about it. I think the crypto strategist is kind of pulling my leg a bit here. Maybe.
Very likely, yes.
Yeah.
From a safe distance.
This is a bit like the should we strive for equality? I remember whenever I think of Jordan Peterson, I think of him using that Kermit the Frog voice.
Yes.
And he's going, well, you're talking about what is it? CEOs, they're saying, oh, there's not enough women CEOs. Well, what about bricklayers? Should we equalize for bricklayers? Well, I don't see very many women bricklayers.
Yeah.
What about, you know what I mean? It's fairly good points, actually, but I can't take him seriously.
No.
Because of the voice. It's like Beckham.
Okay, thank you. We have a friend. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what to make of that comment, crypto strategist. I don't know, the whole area of prostitution I find difficult and grisly. Basically, that might be a hangover from my work days.
and expensive.
Wouldn't know. We have a friend who is a northerner.
Oh, I don't believe it.
No, I don't either. Like it says friend, right? Probably just.
It has a very large bust. Do you mean is that like a small of Margaret Thatcher? Or
no, actually, bosoms we're talking about here. She used, or should I say, uses those prejudices in her role as a senior partner in a magic circle firm. What? We don't really understand this comment, I don't think, do we?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a friend who was a
sorry, do you want to see that again?
A northerner from Middlesbrough. She has a very large bust.
Or
I get it.
She uses those prejudices in her roles. Okay. Sometimes stereotypes can be
that large-breasted northern lass. It doesn't work to a
magician. I don't know. Well, she's pragmatically using a stereotype by the sound of it. Take one step further. Help the environment. Don't have kids. Yeah, I mean, it's too late when you've already got them. Of course. And there was a time, actually, this is another thread tonight, isn't it? One of the things I posted up on Expat Euro News on our blog is like, why do governments hate people so much? And we are going through a human hating phase, which is also a very poor thing in any empire, isn't it? If you hate the very units of your culture and civilization and want to help people to die, assisted dying, and encourage people not to have children, that's not a great way of proliferating your empire, is it, or yourselves, to help the environment. I'll take your point there, and that this is clearly logical. The world things don't work like that, do they?
Help the environment by killing off all the people. Yeah.
Not well. I mean, some people are joining those dots, aren't they? But I mean, I think as the assisted dying thing, like, keep out of it. Why now? Is that an issue? Why does that need to be talked about at the moment? And again, I think that's a bit of virtue signaling or ideological imposition.
I think the thing is, if you've ever experienced being around people at end of life, and I know people are going to say that part of the assisted dying is to protect doctors, or perhaps to protect patients from unscrupulous doctors. Either way, but what I would say that assisted suicide is actually very, very common.
Of course it is.
At end of life. I mean, yeah, it's very common.
I'm sure you're right. People are helped, aren't they? People are made comfortable. All those euphemisms. We know what's going on, don't we?
Yeah,
and it used to be true around birth as well. I think many years ago, it used to be true around birth as well.
Yeah,
and people were trusted to make really horrific decisions, I suspect, at both ends of life.
Yeah.
They are not decisions I want to make, incidentally. But what I resent is the idea that the government is so interested in it and tends to have it as an ideological imposition rather than a truly moral issue. So I don't get it. I don't get it. And are people saying, well, I would do if it wasn't illegal? Is that what people are waiting for? Are they wanting the government to kind of help them?
It's strange, isn't it? And it's another one of those where I've seen, because I'm sure you know about the risks of logical fallacies. And for example, people talk about the the slippery slope, don't they? The slippery slope. But then I remember recently there's two I know of. One was in Canada, a woman who was suffering from depression, and then there was another one. I think it was in France. Sadly, she'd been present when there was a terrorist attack at Charles de Gaulle Airport, and she suffered from PTSD, and she was allowed to end her life. And that's what, whether or not you agree with that, that's an example of a slippery slope coming true, isn't it? Because it was always meant to be for people who were terminally ill and their pain was so great that they had no quality of life and there was no chance of recovery. Right?
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen.
It
does happen. I find government interest, and of course I'm talking about the UK government, and I quite like Portugal's view on this. Portugal just doesn't want to talk about it, basically, and you've got a few kind of ideological headbangers who are an issue, make it an issue, and want to push it through Parliament. But I'm not saying people shouldn't do what they want and need to do. I'm just saying it's interesting when the government get involved in any area of our life. And what's so special for a government? I guess that's what I'm more interested in, the motives of the government.
I get it. I think, generally you're a small government guy, right? I think I am as well. So
I think so.
I think we're on the same page there.
Yeah. Hope the government don't get involved. Says not painless, doesn't get involved in assisted, etc.
Well, that's the end of the slippery slope, isn't it? Not painless, Everyone gets 30 years and then have you seen Logan's Run? Is that a?
Okay. Yes, I understand. I've not seen it, but I understand the concept. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this one where you can buy time off other people as well?
Well, no, it's not that one. Everyone, AI runs the world, and AI has determined that 30 years is the sweet spot for when people should die, and it kind of creates a religion. So people think that when they're being killed, they're going off to heaven.
This is exactly the sort of thing I dread. If I am ever to get bothered about anything, it's this sort of dehumanization. And I think that's it. I think that's the thing about me and my concern about the government getting involved in this, is that they are not humanistic.
No.
They are ideologically possessed and are willing to do horrible things to people.
This is what I say to people, Carl. It's like, listen, whenever you get into this, just remember, they do not care about you.
Yeah, right.
They do not have your best interests at heart. And that's the position you have to start from. Whenever there's anything like this, you have to start from that position. They don't care about you. They're not trying to make your life better. Start there and then kind of work your way forward.
Yeah, and I think that's especially
true with
assisted dying, isn't it?
I saw an interesting one during the week. Can I just say something about the EU, because we started there and maybe we can come back to it, but it was a story I saw.
Yes.
And I have to first of all, I have to declare my my bias as a vegan, right? But I thought it was quite funny that recently.
Hold on a minute. You're a vegan. I thought you were a vegetarian. You're a vegan now.
I'm a vegan. Yeah, I've gone full vegan for about the last month. So no dairy, no anything. But what happened was the meat industry in France lobbied the government to legislate to stop vegetarian brands from calling their products from calling their product meat. So in France, for a short while, Beyond Meat, who's kind of the biggest player in that game, and there's a few other brands as well, weren't allowed to say, "Oh, we're beyond burgers," or "We're beyond sausages," or "We're beyond meatballs." Right? They had to
way up there with sausages. Yes,
way up there with sausages. So what was interesting is Beyond, who are quite a big company now, and in fact, why is the meat industry worried about this? Because they're losing market share to these alternative brands. So Beyond took France to the EU court, and the EU court found in Beyond's favor. And what was interesting is, as part of the meat industry's propaganda, they did two things, which was they said, they looked at Beyond Burgers and were able to show that Beyond Burgers aren't in fact very healthy. Then they're not healthy. They've got like all sorts of chemicals and all sorts of things in them.
Yeah.
And of course that was really an own goal for them, because of course, who's eating burgers as sausages for their health, right? So Beyond were then able to present their evidence that shows that, we're not saying you can even see on the packaging there, they're not saying it's a health food. Nobody's eating.
What do they want? They want to be able to make references to meat words.
They want to be able to call it Beyond Burger. That's their brand, Beyond Burger.
Right.
And but it was really an own goal for the meat industry in France, who's losing market share because veganism is on the rise, of course. And
what's your motivation? Could you share? So it's ethical, health, or a bit of both, or what?
Well, I just found it interesting because it's a decision that I agree with, because aside from the ethics of it, I don't think people are stupid. Not that stupid anyway. I think it's pretty clear that Beyond Burgers, they're in the vegetarian section. They've got a big green. Vegetarian stuff always tends to have these kind of green stickers and things on them to show people, because of course Beyond Burger we don't want people to be confused about what we're eating, but it was just funny for me because it was such an own goal. So the meat industry was showing these videos of how Beyond Burgers are made, and going, "Oh, do you really want to eat this stuff?" And of course they were like, "Okay, well, this is how sausage is made. Do you really want to eat this stuff?" So it was funny.
Yes, basically eyelids and arseholes. Yes, as once was described to me. Now, this is another interesting subject which we could imprint or transfer the lens of the last discussion onto, because it's like, why shouldn't a company make something and call it what it wants, and the meat industry carry on doing what it does? And I was going to say the market decides. I don't really mean that, because that brings it up, that summons up all sorts of other demons and difficulties. Again, it's the government getting involved, isn't it, with this, or a number of governments possibly across the whole of Europe, for example. And that is, what's the benefit for the governments getting involved in this? Staying in jobs, legislating and being powerful. Do you see a public interest, a true public interest in this debate about whether that should be allowed to be called a sausage or not? I see none. I
don't know. Like I said, I had to declare my bias. I like Beyond Burgers.
You do,
right? But I don't eat them thinking. What for me was interesting was I thought the meat lobby in France was being disingenuous. You know what I mean? So they were trying to argue that it's unfair because and they were kind of making a straw man about the health benefits.
Yes. Well, we see this a lot, don't we?
Yeah.
Because people do say, and people not a million miles away from us in this community right now will say, those stupid equivalent things. And I've heard myself say that as well. And I do question why people do want to eat a replica. It's like a sex toy of the food world, isn't it? In a way, it's not the real thing, but it kind of fills a hole.
Well. I what is a burger?
Yeah, I get it.
What is a burger?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to eat cow, why not eat a bit of cow that looks like a cow? I mean, I think that you could argue that the whole thing about calling things a T-bone or as a prime cut or whatever. What are we trying to do?
Oh, people don't want to be responsible for their choices. That's what we're doing, right? With me.
I think it's presented in a way. I found it quite interesting actually in Portugal and Spain that they have pictures of the animal on the packaging.
Yeah.
And I don't remember. I don't remember seeing that in.
No,
in
I think the Americans and the UK have a much smaller appetite, no pun intended, for seeing the real depiction of what they're eating. Like when you go to a supermarket in Portugal, you see a skinned rabbit, don't you, in the counter? You're not going to see that. You're not going to see that in UK, are you? And certainly not in America.
Something interesting on that tack when I was teaching in Hong Kong, and especially when I was teaching very, very young learners, sometimes like 3, 4, 5-year-old kids. And you'd say something like, "Oh, where does milk come from?" And they'll put their hand up. It's quite funny. They'll go cute. They go, "Oh, the supermarket." You know what I mean? And so you might be talking about food, and they've got no idea where their food comes from. And of course, in Hong Kong, most meat is imported. There's no, cows and sheep and all that in Hong Kong.
Right.
But and it was funny to see the teachers. Some of my colleague teachers would be like, "Oh, no," because they would get frightened that I might say, "Oh, the beef comes from cows." Yeah. So it's interesting. So it starts early, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Yeah,
it's true. And as far as I'm concerned, I've got I've got opinions about it, but I don't feel strongly about this at all. It's like, if you want to eat what you want, basically. And I don't want the government getting involved in these protracted. I mean, it seems to me that the meat lobby must pay governments a lot of money, and that's why they might take the position they've taken on this. Right?
Well, without government money, anyway, the thing is, it works both ways, doesn't it? Because without government subsidies, there really wouldn't be a meat industry, to be honest.
Correct. Yeah, I think you're right. Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Last couple of comments, and let's wind it up for this evening. We've had our second difficult album. This is our third album, effectively, isn't it? And I think it's gone fairly well. Not as much contribution. Stay in touch with us during the week at Expat Euro News, which is our blog, and we post things up there that can be quite triggering. So you might.
You got the link. You got the link up there for.
I think I do. It's in the banner that's flashing past the screen, but I will also add it as a sticker on the screen as well. So
I think I'm just going to add it into my live chat here as well.
Yeah, because it'll be interesting for people to contribute during the week as well. So that's the. I think that's right, isn't it? It looks like Expat Euro, as in sort of urinary. News Expat urinarynews.com for staying in touch during the week. And those, I was saying about it's the sex toys of the food world. They do look quite dildo-esque, the Beyond sausages up there, which loosely fits in fanar into the up there with sausages feature that we very nearly had. Right, okay, last few comments. Under Trudeau, no thanks. I would not want to be in that position. Under Trudeau in Canada, you can get yourself put down for the most stupid of reasons. Now, is this anti-woke government propaganda, or is this true? One guy did it because he was autistic. It's totally stupid. The whole thong thing, not thong. The whole thong is ridiculous.
Thank you, Jackie, for that correction, because I was.
What you have to worry about is compulsory euthanasia.
Compulsory euthanasia.
Yeah. Well, yes. You have XXX and won't recover. Consider doing the right thing. Oh, that's a bit too close for comfort, according to some, isn't it? Just recently. Another factor that leads to traditional meat producers losing sales is the fact that halal meat consumption is going up and they don't supply those products. Thank you, Crypto Strategist, for that. And many comments this evening. You're an excellent part of this community. Thank you for being here again tonight. Your mate, Basal 2025 is here.
Oh, yeah.
Enjoying the cut of your jib tonight.
Hello, sir. Thank you very much.
Here in the US. My dog smells. I thought you were UK. Here in the US, the dairy industry. Okay. A bit dated, isn't it? The dairy industry.
Oh my God! You see?
Yeah, there you go.
You see that? I was ready.
Yep. The dairy industry sued almond growers over almond milk in inverted commas. They wanted it to be labelled as imitation milk.
What kind of animal is an imitation?
Yes, and the milking of almonds is very precise work. It should be very expensive. When it comes to food, eat what you like, just not off my plate. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, thanks for popping that into the chat as well. That's a particular link there. And you are quite tricky to find, and your feed. Sorry, Pete. We are quite difficult to find. However, if you subscribe, I've noticed, I'm going to see if I can remember the Portuguese's invitation to people. I've noticed that quite a few of you watch my videos but haven't subscribed yet. It costs you nothing to subscribe, which you can do so.
And it really helps me out.
And it really helps me out. And if you don't, he's ignorant. I've heard it so many times. I nearly know it off by heart, as I'm sure many.
That's it. Listen, Carl. The one piece of bad news I have to tell everyone is I might be moving away.
What?
Because I got a job in France at the. I can't tell jokes.
There's a joke in it. Yeah, I knew it. I bloody knew it.
As a guillotine operator.
That's not the joke, is it?
I'll be heading there tomorrow.
Oh God.
It's 8 o'clock.
He's put in a whole day's work. And how many did you warm up?
I'll be heading there tomorrow.
It's very good.
Guillotine operator.
You see, the great thing about being an online teacher is you can try your material out. You don't have to work the club circuit, do you?
It doesn't help. I could tell that 10 times and I'll laugh. I can't. I can't.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, that killed the feed. So, as I was saying, to find us, Pete, please subscribe to GMP TV. As this show gets more and more difficult, and we discuss things that are really kind of off color or difficult, or
euthanasia.
Yeah. It's not going to be on Good Morning Portugal.
The death of the empire.
All of that sort of stuff. It doesn't belong on Good Morning Portugal.
Why do politicians hate human life?
Exactly. So please subscribe to GMP TV or the Portuguese. It costs you nothing, and it really helps me out if you subscribe. And if you don't, Tony,
that's ignorant.
Yes, bad. There you go. There's your review for your joke tonight. And you know what? I seriously got upset when you said you were moving away. I thought this is
well, I did actually apply. The thing is, on a side note, I did actually apply to Citroën, who are obviously a French company. They got a really weird recruitment process.
Yeah,
I had to put in 2 CVs.
Hey, yes.
2 CVs.
Oh God, you were playing with my emotions because I thought you really were moving away, and then you say that. Oh God. Oh
my God.
Okay. Should we just stop it there? I think we should.
Let's see. Well, I've tried twice to stop it, and you're not getting it. I'm trying to.
I see. Okay,
this is the outro 2 times.
This is what we do, isn't it? You do a joke, and then I cut away from. I get it. Okay, so you're gonna have to find another joke.
That was it.
So, Tony, you're not really moving away, are you?
I'm not really moving away. No, but if I was, I would go in one of my 2 CVs.
Munson and the geezer. Munson and the geezer. Reporting from the scene. Munson and the geezer. News in every ride.